Hi, I'm Adam Rumble and these are my top tips for fishing in shallow water during the warmer months. So first up is the bait. Obviously we're targeting fish in shallow water, 20 inches and below, so the bait that we're going to use needs to reflect this. My choice is Periscope X ground bait. With a little twist, I add 1:1 Periscope X paste. The reason I add this is because the paste has a lot more oily ingredients, so you can really wet this down. It makes the mix very, very heavy, perfect for keeping fish on the bottom. The next bait I'd look to use is micro pellets. Again, I'd really over wet these, make them take on a maximum amount of water so they stay on the bottom and you can catch the fish exactly where you want. So the hook baits I like to use, it's really simple, live red maggots and pro hookable expanders. I like these baits because they're nice and heavy and they stand out over the ground bait, so it's a nice visual target for the fish to home in on. And one thing of key importance is keeping your bait at the right consistency. Obviously you mix your ground bait on the morning, and if you're fishing a match or a pleasure session, you could be there for 5 or 6 hours. So during the warmer months, obviously it's a lot hotter and your ground bait especially can dry out. So one thing I like to do to combat this is store it in a superior medium EVA accessory case. This has actually got a clear PVC lid which allows you to keep it shut, trapping all the moisture inside the ground bait and preventing it from drying out. It's also great, obviously, if it starts raining, you can chuck the lid back on, stops any additional water getting into the ground bait mix and spoiling it. So finding the correct depth for this style of fishing is really important. You obviously don't want it to be too deep, and on the same hand you don't want it to be too shallow. I like to try and find anything between 16 and 20 inches. I find this to be the optimum depth. It's not too deep that you get stupid amounts of line bites or foul hook fish, and on the same hand it's not too shallow that the fish won't actually settle in that depth of water. I actually mark my top kits up in inch intervals. This just allows me to set my rig at exactly the depth I want, and I can then find it in the peg. Obviously with these snake lake style venues you're looking at either down the margins or across to the island to find this depth of water, and if possible I like to get it right against the bank. This basically stops fish from coming in at all angles, and obviously just allows them to come in from one direction, which is up the slope, so they intercept your hook bait first. This often leads to cleaner bites and less foul hookers. So with this style of fishing, because obviously you're fishing in very shallow water, the fish obviously come in and they can move your rig around a lot. So what I like to do is keep it really simple. I use one pattern of float, that's a Carp shallow, and I use it in 2 sizes, 4x14s and 4x16s. The 4x14s rig is the one I'd look to use 90% of the time, and there's those odd occasions where you get lots of fish in your peg where the 4x16 can be a real game changer. It allows you to anchor your bait in on the bottom perfectly and stops it getting wafted around too much. Line choice, we've got 014 hook lengths, it's 3 inches long to a 16 GPM B. Small bulk of stots, 018 main line, which is AccuPower. And most importantly, I've got 3 number 8 stots as back shot. This is really important to keeping your rig nice and still and over your feed. Elastic choice, I tend to err on the side of a softer elastic. So 11 Duraslip through a short stop. Absolutely perfect for fish up to 5 or 6 pound. Specifically in this venue, Tunnel Barn, there's lots of F1s, so I want to hook the fish, not allow them to splash around, get them out the peg nice and quickly and get them under control. So there's two ways of feeding this area of your swim. We've got a big 250ml pot on your cupping kit, or a soft cad pot mounted on your top kit. Often using a bigger pot for areas obviously down the edge or across is perfect if there's lots of bigger fish such as carp or even big F1s. The only downside to it can be you can get a lot of fish in your peg and it can lead to foul hookers. I often tend to use the bigger pot when I'm looking to prime a line 10-15 minutes before I go on it, and then start feeding with a smaller pot. This just allows you to keep a smaller number of fish in your peg, making them easier to catch and leading to less foul hookers. If I'm solely targeting F1s, I often tend to just use the smaller pot and fish for one fish at a time. As I say, feeding less bait just brings less fish in your peg, so you just get less line bites, more positive bites and more fish in the net. So fishing the right area of your swim at the right time is crucial to getting the most from them. Often on snake style lakes like this at Tunnel Barn, there's lots of F1s in here. They tend to live down the edges, you can catch there straight away and leave the rest of your peg to settle. I see loads of anglers go straight across into the mud, catch a few fish and then they don't catch the rest of the day. The way I like to do it is start down the edge or short, leave the fish to settle over there, and then that last hour and a half of the match you can go over and tend to catch a few bonus fish as well, such as carp, and you can have a really good last hour which can be the difference between winning and losing. Obviously if you're fishing for carp, we all know the margins are a great area to target the last hour, so I'd look to put a couple of big pots of ground bait down there 10-15 minutes before you go on it, and then really bag up on that last hour, and like I say, it can be the difference between winning and losing. Right, so I've run you through all the tips. It's time to put it into practice and see if we can catch one. So I'm just going to hook 3 maggots. Prefer to hook them through the thin end. Obviously this leaves maximum hook point showing. I'm going to fill the small soft cad pot up full of ground bait. Just push it in gently just to secure it while shipping out. Let's ship out to our marker. So it's important that you choose a far bank marker. Make sure you line up with that every time. I'm simply just going to drop my rig in, place my pot under the water. Obviously these pots have got holes in, so it allows the bait just to seep out nicely. Just going to pick my rig up, drop it in exactly over where I've just fed. And now it's just a case of keeping that rig still, looking for a fast, sharp, positive bite, ignoring all those movements that you tend to get with this style of fishing. You're looking for a fast shoot under of the float. Just make sure you keep that rig right over your bait. As you can see the importance of a back shot, it just allows you to keep that rig still. Just waiting for one to come in. And sometimes you can, after you've caught a few fish, it can unsettle the peg. Obviously with it being so shallow, the bait can get spread around. So it's important to keep feeding, keep active. Ensure those fish stay in that specific spot. So I'm just going to give my bait a little lift and drop. This can often encourage a fish that's in the area to just grab hold of your bait. Just puts it right in their eye line. Obviously the fish that are there are active and feeding, and there we go. Lightning fast bite, which is exactly what you're looking for. Feels like another F1. The typical fish that you catch in these snake style lakes. If you get out, if I can get him. So get out, give the tips I've told you a go, and you catch plenty of fish like this.